Hi there, it's Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder here with this week's episode of the Market Monday. Actually, on a Monday for once. Hey, things are looking up here at Rogue Deck Builder. Anyways, this week I want to talk about the tightrope that Wizards has to walk with regards to the supply of product and the relationship of how it's going to be able to hold MSRP. So you can see here I've got Tulane Community College's video pulled up about his final conclusion of is it worth it to buy a Commander Collection Green? He's very critical in this video. You can definitely go and check that video out for more context before you actually watch this video. But I'm going to make the argument that Commander Green was probably the perfect amount. It might be slightly under the amount that should have been released, but we're starting to see a lot of prices come down, and we're actually having it come close to the MSRP of where they wanted this product to sell at. And it is going to be a product that for once does not crash the market, and even better more, it's not going to be a product that then turns into a signature spellbook. Now, Tulane College jokes that this is just a signature spellbook Freyalise. There's actually one less card. None of them are foil in the normal version. The foil version of it is just insanely priced. And for that reason, it's like if you're looking in the terms of how much it cost the printers to print and Magic the Gathering to market this product, it's the exact same as a signature spellbook. In fact, when we opened up a Commander Green, it even seemed like it had less packaging. It wasn't even in a pack like you see in the signature spellbooks. They even went one step even lazier and just had the cards kind of loose and like a little cardboard thing. And it's so as far as the production cost, it's the exact same amount for them to produce the Commander Green as it was to produce like a signature spellbook. And that's sort of the argument here, that if it's going to be a higher price, maybe you just get more value within the package. But I'm going to go back and say that the Commander or the signature spellbooks were not bad products for their price. Keep in mind that they had a MSRP goal of $20 of what you got out of the signature spellbooks. The Jace one did very well, extremely well. When it was first printed, it actually sold way above MSRP, and then people realized the supply was basically unlimited for Jace, and it crushed the value. And you could find these everywhere for the entire next year. Jace signature spellbooks were very available. But in fact, it did so well with that initial release of Jace's signature spellbook, the Gideon signature spellbook, they even ramped up the supply of Gideon. And to this day, you can still find Gideon spellbooks for way even under distributor costs. So distributor are losing money on the Gideon spellbooks. And the same thing is now true with Chandra spellbooks. And I will still make the argument that none of those spellbooks were actually bad for $20. They all had about $40 worth of value. I think that's a pretty reasonable goal for Wizards of the Coast to put in twice the amount of secondary market value in a sealed product if they're trying to get it at a specific MSRP. They have a little bit bigger of a budget for like challenger decks. Usually there's $100 worth of cards in challenger decks, but it has more to do with those $1 and $2 pieces rather than in signature spellbooks. You have less cards to work with. Maybe you don't have to have that big of margins because typically speaking, you can't really recoup the $1 and $2 value, or like lands, or all the 15-cent cards that then do and add up. And in like a 75 card deck, those 10-cent cards, I mean, if every card was 10 cents, it'd be $7.50 right there. So those do add significantly to the value of like something like a challenger deck. And the same can be said for Commander. Commander, they do also have that $100 budget for usually the $40 or $45 cards. And the same can hold true that we've seen with both the Brawl decks as well as now the new Commander decks that come out from each set, is they typically do have 2 to 2.5% of the value in the sealed product. And then what always inevitably happens is these prices get crushed. Always, without a doubt, if the supply is high enough, all of the prices will eventually come down to the distributor cost, because if it's above distributor cost, what will end up happening is especially the fake stores, but even local game stores that are just trying to piece these out, if they're not selling well locally, will piece them out and sell them for right on that price that they got them from the distributor, and that way they can recoup their money and invest in something else that does move for a better margin. So I'm going to make the argument that Commander Green is probably at the right supply. And we get a lot of hate for that. And a lot of the comments still, I don't know why people watch my channel that don't understand basic supply, demand, economics, and why it has a huge impact on the game of Magic the Gathering, on the health of the game of Magic the Gathering. There were a few comments last time that basically kind of tongue-in-cheek that, oh, I'm glad that I don't play this game as a stock market. Well, unfortunately, if you do buy booster packs, just you engaging in a collectible card game is playing sort of the secondary or the stock market of Magic the Gathering. And I don't know why people turn their noses up to people that do. It's no different from anything else in life. It has a market, and more importantly, it has a secondary market. And again, I would argue that that actually adds to the appeal of Magic the Gathering, the collectability, and the overall health of the game to have that aspect. Things that we call living card games, they tend to do quite poorly for that very reason, that it doesn't have that collector's aspect to it. I mean, think of if they didn't have the collector's aspect to basically Pokemon or any of these other things, it would not have nearly the health or the following, and different people get different things out of Magic the Gathering. And whenever there's a transactional, whenever there's money that is being placed for or purchased for a product, there's going to be a market, and this is inevitably what's going to happen. So anyway, I'm not going to justify what I do any longer. It's just, it is what it is. And Wizards of the Coast can't ignore it. You as a player can't ignore it. It is very real, and it does affect the reality of perception of products. And I think this is one where I actually do agree with Tulane Community College on that this is a very weird product where it could have easily been a signature spellbook. Again, they would have had to then set a precedent that signature spellbooks going forward would have as much value as this particular one, but I'm okay with them calling it as what it is. And the blame actually for this initial $80 to $100 to $120, you can't look any further than pointing that finger back at the players that are willing to pay the price for the Commander Green once they saw the cards that were spoiled. So that is just the reality of life, is supply and demand. It's where is going to find that happy medium where people are happy with their purchase and the sellers are happy with where they sell, the selling point. It's your duty, it's your moral obligation as a buyer to be as ruthless and loyal to your wallet as possible. And on the other end of the spectrum with the seller, it is the seller's responsibility to be as ruthless as possible and also to be as loyal to their wallet and your bank account to get the best deal possible for the seller. What we call in economics is called the Pareto equilibrium. It's where it can't be budged any further to where both parties feel like they are satisfied. And that is what Wizards tries to do when it gauges its MSRP and how much it actually sells to distributors and how much the distributors are going to sell to the stores and how much the stores are going to sell to the player. Industry standards states that it's about 40 to 50% is what we as society has deemed as fair. And it's funny when I talk to so many Magic the Gathering players, they cry bloody murder when something like Commander Green goes above that MSRP. So a little bit of transparency's sake, the MSRP probably should have been $50 for Commander Green, which I think is slightly high for a product like this. That you did get over that 2 and 2.5% value out of Commander Green, but a lot of these cards were low supply. A lot of them were going to get crushed by the reprint, so I think that Wizards can factor that in a little bit and even go a little bit higher, maybe 3 or 4 times the amount of value in a product before they release something like that they want to have a specific MSRP. And the Commander Collection Green is very misleading. I think the foils nowadays aren't even that highly sought after. They curl. They really need to do something different with their, premium is no longer foil when they've created the etched foils. They really should have made these etched foils at this point in time to distinguish from foils now being their kind of secondary premium product, especially when you even put in these expeditions and full arts and all these other things. So that's my 2 cents about the product design of the actual Commander Green. So back to what I was talking about, how they cry bloody murder, but you never hear it on the other end when stores are losing money, when they have to sell set boosters from Zendikar for $80 and taking like a $12 loss there if they bought it from one of the more expensive distributors. The most expensive distributor, for transparency's sake, is still selling set boosters at $92. The cheapest distributor right now is blowing them out for about $77. So there's a huge price discrepancy in between distributors, and I think that the 77 distributor has realized this is a toxic product, that Zendikar Rising set boosters are not going to move, and is trying to unload them, get ahead of the game, free up capital, free up inventory space for other stuff that will sell. and put themselves in a better financial position than something like the more expensive distributor that has a different long-term game plan to be typically the distributor I'm talking about here likes to be the last one standing, likes to have the products when no one else does. So they're willing to wait 2, 3, 4 years. I think they're finally starting to move things like Shadows or Innistrad. They're the last distributor that is still carrying it because everyone else is already sold out of all of their products, and then that way they can distinguish themselves from other distributors by still having that sort of product to be available for purchase. So anyway, it's kind of funny. I think it should go both ways from the consumer, that they can't have their cake and eat it too. They have to either be okay with supply and demand dictating the price of a product, or they should be engaging in or asking for Wizards of the Coast maybe to make a map like other games. It's a manufactured accepted price where you can't sell below or high a particular price. A lot of them, like Warhammer or Asmodee for board games, or there are many of these, even like Army Painter paints, they say you cannot sell over 15% or you cannot sell below 15%. You have to keep it in this range for this sort of consumer memory of what the price should be, or the fair price what they gauge for a particular product. And so it's got to be either or. And I think that the magic of that, and consumers really need to take a look in the mirror and see how they are affecting. See if they actually do like this, the more capitalistic wild west of letting supply and demand determine this. I think even with the MSRP being eliminated from Wizards of the Coast, this even makes it even more of that wild west. And that's what has been interesting about this Commander Green, is everyone just jumped on thinking this was an $80 product. And this is not an $80 product. This was set to be a $55, maybe even a $50 product for the Commander Green. I believe that I got these for $27 to $30 a Commander Green. It was very limited, but I am a small store. This was WPN allocated, so it goes based upon your pre-release numbers. We haven't had the greatest pre-release numbers in the past couple of years. We're like only the second tier, so not the lowest of the lows, but we still are one of the smaller of the stores, and didn't even have access like the Commander Collection Premium, whereas the bigger stores did. So here's my justification why I think that it had the perfect supply. And I'm also going to give some good news. In my opinion, people are going to tell me it's terrible news, so I'm preparing myself for the dislikes of what I'm going to be talking about further on in this video. But Commander Green has started to come down on both the individual prices down to where I think it's going to settle around that $50, $55, $60 of value, as well as the eBay prices also coming down to that. Here's a bunch for 65 to 70. So even a couple days ago, that was 75 to 80. A couple days before that, it was 80 to 85. When Tulane Community College did this video, he said it was between $80 on the low and $100 on the high. It was within that range, and that's also what I saw with eBay, Amazon, Card Kingdom, Star City Games, all those bigger names. That's typically where the average was running for Commander Green. So Commander Green, like I showed here, has been trending way down. It had the $200 of value before it was reprinted and is now halved in value. It still has a long ways to go because we are still in that time period where I think there's going to be a crunch on Magic the Gathering. They printed way too many products in too short of a time window, of where there are still people that have sunk all their money in things like Commander Legends and Double Masters. There is still so much sealed Double Masters out there that I think eventually will start to hit the supply line when, let's see if Chaldean has something in it like Full Art, dual lands or something like that, some sort of shenanigans they're going to run in there, Commander specific, who knows what they're going to do for Chaldean. But I don't think that Wizards is done with their FOMO. I think they're going to continue to push out products that just are making people just, salivate. They have to get this, and things like Commander Legends are going to be pushed to the side as these sets keep ramping up their value contained within them. And we don't even know all of the specialty products are going to be released over the summer. We don't know what Modern Horizons 2 is going to have in it. There are so many things that 2021 has already announced that I think will be too much for the market to handle, but I digress on that topic. So that's my whole kind of breakdown of Commander Green. So for transparency's sake too, so since I am a tier 2, I would say, store, I got 20 Commander Collection Greens. So you got to think on the scope of how many things are running out there. I think that's on par for like how many buy a box promos that we received. And I think that Mark Rosewater made a statement on Twitter that a mythic, any given mythic out of a standard set, has less mythics in it than buy a box promos available. So if we can kind of extrapolate the data there and say that a Commander Green was allocated very similar to buy a box promos, you can say that every mythic that was printed, or every card here in Commander Green, and got to keep in mind there's a foil and a non-foil version of this, every one of these versions will be as rare as a buy a box promo that was printed in a standard set. So in the scope of things, not very rare. If it doesn't have the demand to hold up to that, this is where you're going to see these price crashings of things like Omnath Locus of Mana. Is that played more than something like, I'm trying to think of a good buy a box promo that saw a lot of play. The Take Extra Turn one, I can't think of it off the top of my mind. Does it see more play in EDH than that? I highly doubt it, so Omnath probably will also push down in the price tag, especially since this is a multiple printing of this particular card. And you're going to see these other cards really start to get crushed. Sol Ring also really starting to go down for where it was post or pre the mass openings of these. So I know a lot of people, especially my patrons, were very disappointed that these weren't available. 20 was just not enough to go around for 150 patrons. I felt very bad about not being able to offer them. My locals ate them up. Even 20 is probably the perfect number for what I had buyers here locally. And I think other stores have started to see that as well. And for stores, we do like that because it doesn't give us excess. We don't have to then fire sell them. We don't have to liquidate stuff. We don't have to move money around and then have to be stuck with these to then move these around to then try to gauge what the demand will be. And I guarantee if the supply was higher for Commander Green, we'd be singing an even different tune about this product. How it could be another signature spellbook Chandra or Ikoria Commander, where people just instantly forget that this was a FOMO product at one point, that people thought it was a great product. And when the dust settled and the secondary market adjusted, everyone's like, oh, wow, this is garbage. This has nothing in it. There's no value. Oh, it wasn't like there's a $20 Chandra in the Chandra spellbook that cost $20. I mean, it just makes me facepalm when I see the attention span of the average Magic player not being able to get all the factors that go in to a product. So I guess we can move on from Commander Green here and talk about the other two things that I am happy about that other people definitely are disappointed about. The first one is Commander Legends. Commander Legends reprint. I don't know if this is a full-blown reprint. There were a few that were available through distributors. This could be one of two things. Usually there is a 2-week time period for what we call dead stores, or there are a lot of stores that are still closed for these lockdowns and the pandemic. There are a lot of stores that have gone under that it still put in numbers with distributors before they went under, and they have to give like this 2 to 3 week time period for those that did get product allocated to them from Wizards for the distributors to then be able to sell that product to other stores. And I think that is what has been happening this week more than there was a restock from Wizards of the Coast. It might be either or. If that is the case, that does explain the small numbers, and there could be another massive reprint on the horizons. However, it's better late than now, in my opinion. I am glad that there's a little bit of breathing room with this Commander Legends. I actually think the Commander Legends also had that perfect supply that is very, very hard for them to do, where it was able to be sold at decent margins for stores and was able to have a decent little profit margin. This is where a lot of players just have an unrealistic expectation for local game stores, for margins, for how much it costs for overhead, and how much of a percentage of profit a store needs to get from every dollar of product. You're really, as a local game store, I found out this the hard way, is I have a very finite amount of money that I'm able to get from my community. It's not like online sales where I have basically an infinite amount. I mean, there still is a finite amount. There's a lot of competition online, but theoretically speaking, if I can make a 3% profit margin, I can be okay with that compared to someone if it's more infinite and be able to undercut that 4% person. And make at that point a sale is a sale, and you're making money, and it's just profit margin at that point. You're not like taking it out of a finite pot. But if it's a local thing where I have to compete with other products, say even other non-Magic the Gathering products or other Magic specific products, to where I have to fire sell something for 3%, that means that money that I'm getting, I've told this story before, if I sell someone if I sell someone 6 cases of Magic the Gathering and they fork over thousands of dollars, but I made $20 per case, I only made $120 off those thousands of dollars of purchases. However, if I were to sell $300 worth of card singles and made a 50% margin on those card singles, I actually took in $150. I actually made more profit on a $300 purchase than a $4,000 purchase, let's say, for the sake of the argument here. And that's kind of where a lot of other people don't get where I'm coming from with Commander Legends, where I don't think the stores really made out like bandits. When I looked at Commander Legends Collector's Edition, what they were going for like $280. So if you were to buy them from distributors, we're selling them for $180 at the start, and you're looking to expect to get a 40 or 50% profit margin off of them, you're already into the 300s. You're way above 300s to where the collector's editions need to be selling to get those type of margins. And that's industry standard. You're looking to get that from Warhammer. You're looking to get that from board games. You're looking to get that from everything else. And I don't know why Wizards or Magic needs to be the darling where a lot of stores have to work on these very, very slim to none margins, the 10, the 12, even less percent margins on things. A lot of things have to be loss leaders. A lot of stores, ours include, have deals like 3 for 10 on booster packs that actually don't make money. They are just used as a loss leader, get people in the store and purchasing money here because eventually they will buy the high margin products. So with Commander Legends, we were already below industry standard, but as far as Magic is concerned, stores were above Magic standards, and so it was just a feel good all around. It feels like people feel like they still got their value out of Commander Legends and out of the collector's edition of Commander Legends. And that is where we need to strive for like a Pareto's equilibrium where stores can survive and players can feel happy. So a lot of people are disappointed with this last wave of Commander Legends because, yeah, I understand that if you want product and you're unable to get product because your local game store can't refill product, that there is just an issue in supply and whatnot. And I think that needs to go back with Wizards really clamping down on the fake stores, the online sellers. They can't have it both ways. They can't have this really robust Amazon, eBay scene and then expect to be able to fulfill their local game stores at the need that they need without that also crushing their online market with too much inventory at the local will eventually bleed onto the online. But if you put a huge wall on the locals being able to get as many as they need to get to kind of sacrifice the locals in the scope of the online being healthy, then locals won't have enough to do that sort of promoting. And what type of effect does that have long term with things like Commander Legends or pre-releases or just releases, drafts in general not firing because of the lack of supply that stores can get them at a decent price? You never want to expect a store to have to go and buy online. In fact, through contracts with Wizards of the Coast, they have explicitly made that against the contract to be able to buy from any other source but a distributor. Stores have been had their WPN taken away because they were caught buying from other stores. So it gets very, very messy with this sort of thing with the supply and demand. And I'm hoping that people can actually see it through the lens of someone trying to sell and make a living off of Magic the Gathering, of selling. And again, I'm a legit local game store with real customers, with real play area, with real tournaments, with real people. I'm not one of those people that just busts out something in the basement and tries to go a quick rich scheme off of Magic the Gathering, which I think a lot of people have viewed my channel, my two channels, Rogue Mark and this one, more as rather than the latter. All right, so Commander Legends, I think it was the perfect release. I'm hoping that it's later rather than sooner with a bit of breathing room. And if that is the case, I hope that they can actually be a little more disciplined in 2021 with their supply and be able to gauge that to try to come to that perfect Pareto equilibrium with the consumer and the seller at more of the happy sweet spots. All right, so that also brings me to Jumpstart. Jumpstart's the big one that people are very upset about because this was the huge anticipated restock of Jumpstart that basically is non-existent. Stores got a couple boxes to a case, very, very slim to none with Jumpstart. And I'm actually cheering this because I don't think it was a good product to begin with. Yes, people had fun with it. Yes, people liked it. The issue with putting these high chase cards like Tiny Bones and the Elf in there that's worth a lot of money, what is the Elf? The Allosaurus Shepherd, is that the product did not get to the intended recipients of the product. So Jumpstart was supposed to be made for new players to have like a kind of a smash up type feel where you shuffle two booster packs together and play it. I thought as a more experienced player, it was a miserable experience. The power level between weak cards and bombs was through the roof. Someone gets their bomb, it's very, very tough to come back. The randomness of being able to shuffle two decks that might not work together also was a thing. It just wasn't my cup of tea, but a lot of people really loved it, and especially new players really loved it. And it's kind of sad that these things weren't available in mass for people to be able just to crack and play. But again, this is the problem they had. Intro decks and things like that were specifically created so that they couldn't be something of financial gain to piece apart. So they'd be available at your local game stores and your Walmarts and wouldn't be scooped up off the shelves and resold or pieced out, so that a player wanted to experience the intro level play, that they could do so. And I think they've come to a pretty good balance with those commander decks. The commander decks do have enough staples, enough value at the price point, and kudos to where kudos. People say all I do is whine about Wizards of the Coast on here. I get that their job is hard. There are definitely some things that make me just facepalm Wizards of the Coast, especially recently in their inability to, design a standard with having to ban 8 cards from one set. Like, those things are it's just miserable at this point dealing with that. And we haven't even scraped the surface of design problems with, standard at the moment, and all the other things that's affected other firms. Anyway, I'm getting off on a huge tangent here. Going back to product design, I understand that it's a lot harder to try to find that balance of where the product becomes available and not too good to where it just gets pieced out and sold for the secondary market. So anyway, Jumpstart, going back to that's kind of the problem that I think they had with putting these super powerful cards in the set. But Jumpstart was meant to be a supplemental product to go along with the release of Core 2021. A lot of people forget that this was a Core 2021 product. So we had commander decks for Zendikar, we had Brawl for Throne of Eldraine, we had what do we even have for Theros? Planeswalker decks for Theros. I guess we had Planeswalker for Theros as well. But it was really meant to be kind of the other supplemental product that went along the release of Core 2021. Unfortunately, with some supply issues, it set it back, and there was a lot of mess with it, and the supply got kind of mixed up. That I think that's what really affected the price memory and the kind of the theory of scarcity, because I don't think there's a lot of scarcity for Jumpstart. I think the prices are telling us a different story. Of course, the ones that are super expensive are holding their value, but this is where it gets kind of meh with the other cards. There are a lot of the value from Jumpstart is not in the actual Jumpstart set. We look at Core 2021 for those cards that were included in them. A lot of the rares are from Core 2021, and Jumpstart has already crushed the value of those rares in Core 2021. It's probably going to make Core 2021 not that great of a core set, comparatively speaking, to Core 2019 and Core 2020 in the years to come, due to the kind of double printing that we got from Jumpstart. And so that's kind of my concern about Jumpstart. If this was even ramped up even more, if they did another reprinting of this, that it will crush the value, and it might end up being, causing a lot of other products to be, at this point, kind of toxic products where they're never going to be worth their value, that people can complain about them, the distributors are going to lose house and home out of them, stores are going to get crushed by them, and it's just a bad situation all around. So I, for one, I hope this clears up a little bit of how the market works. I know it's not going to make a dent in some people's thick skulls, that we'll get the people that will just, capitalism over and over and over. Don't know how they, want their collectible card game to run, other than the free market deciding the prices of things. I don't get how, whatever. I'm not going to go into it too much with it, because, like I said, it's not going to make a dent in some people's thick skulls about how, the reality of life works. So anyway, I guess that's what I was going to talk about today on the Market Monday. It's been a topic at hand I've been itching at. I was going to do a more thorough review of Toledo Community College video. I do tend to agree to a point with where this was coming from. The product was a little bit misleading. It probably should have been a spellbook. Maybe had a higher supply. Spellbooks absolutely have too high of a supply. I don't think anyone can argue with that at this point in time. Gideon spellbooks are still rotting on the shelves. One of the problems with Gideon spellbooks is many of the cards in them were reprinted. Same thing with the Chandra spellbook, is there was a lot of questionable decisions in there, like the Cathartic Reunion not having different art, the just really not distinguishing itself enough as a product. And we've seen the same things with other of the products that have come out on this channel. I've already made my complaints about set boosters and theme boosters really not having that much difference between them. And even collector's editions are starting to just be, they're repetitive between the products. Oh, speaking of which, the last thing I want to talk about, draft boosters. So draft boosters are being phased out. I have a couple theories about I guess not phased out is the right term, but they are definitely taking their flagship product from draft boosters and putting it on set boosters. How I noticed that was the availability of draft boosters. So basically my numbers got swapped. In Zendikar I was allowed to get like 2 cases of set boosters, like very, very few set boosters, and just tons, hundreds of Zendikar draft boosters. Chaldean numbers are the exact opposite. Unless it's a clerical error and my distributor is going to call me back blushing that they had it wrong, they have moved the supply of the kind of their hallmark product to set boosters. And I think that this is Wizards' sneaky way of increasing the price because we are going through inflation. Inflation went up about 11% this year, and I kind of hate the Fed's excuse for this, that we've had the last decade we've had historically low inflation, and so therefore the market can actually handle a huge inflation in one year. That it's worrisome when it's multiple years in a row where there's especially double-digit inflation, but just inflation in general that goes above like 3-4%. But anyway. I think that a lot of products are going to have to adjust due to inflation, and instead of like in price Wizards of the Coast increasing draft boosters, they're just making them a weaker product to buy and shifting people over to buy products that are more bang for their buck because it is less money for them to produce set boosters based upon how much people are paying for the product you get. Compared to something like a draft booster. That's my theory with them going from draft to set boosters. Why they're keeping draft? Well, events have to be able to run drafts. They're going to keep drafts. I wouldn't be surprised if the set after Chaldean goes from 36 to 24, though, because 24 is just a better number when running an event. You just grab a draft booster box. What they can do with like the box toppers is that can go towards prize support. Especially when it's a randomized box topper. So therefore, as a store, you could do the draft at cost, and the prize is a box topper. I wish what they do is a box topper that contained 3 cards in it, and that way first, second, third, or probably 4 cards, I guess at that point. So that way first, second, third, and fourth would get some sort of prize. So you could give uncommons to the third and fourth player, or rare for the second player, and have a mythic in there in that box topper, like sort of the list from set boosters, and then you'd have the prize support included in a draft booster box, and it's ready to go. All of these things I just really wish that it takes a 2-second shower thought for me to come up with something like this, where Wizards of the Coast just creates set boosters and theme boosters that are just so obnoxiously similar would be the right way to say it, to the products that already exist. Anyway, kind of a long ranty video with here. Definitely looking forward to your comments in the comment section below. From maybe you're an eBay flipper. Maybe I'd like to hear your perspective on this. Again, I come from this as a weird angle. I used to flip cards. I no longer do flip cards. I still try to give people financial advice because it literally was the predecessor to the local game store. Was being able to flip cards, make a profit, save up long time to do so, and have the means to then move into something more feasible, more sustainable, which is sealed product. That's a better route to go as far as having a brick and mortar. Of course, we still do singles, but it's just not worth my time as much as it was before to do that. But I still, I've been there. I know exactly that whole aspect of the game, and then I've been a player too. I've been a competitive player. I've been a broke college student. I've been all of the above. So I think I have a unique aspect, or a unique insight into the overall market of Magic the Gathering. So interested in all the other ones, so all the other walks of life on the financial side of Magic the Gathering. And we hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.